Hello everyone. I'm beginning this recording about Floof Collage Party by showing you the beautiful outside of my studio. As you can see, maybe it has pink lights around the door, and that way if you are driving by and you want to give me a shout out and say hey, you've got my phone number. So I'm going to walk inside now, and I'm going to show you the inside and tell you some instructions. Welcome to Floof Collage Party. Today we are going to have a little tutorial about how to make art projects with things that you, I hope, have around your house. And it's going to be like a treasure hunt. You get to be super creative and imaginative about what you find, how you find it, and how you use it. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you my little cheat sheet, which I call a decision tree. And this decision tree is how I tell people what's happening when they walk into my shop and they're like, oh my gosh, where do I start? There's so much stuff. So the most important thing at the back, at the bottom, are the roots of our tree. So creativity, your ideas, your bravery, and the bravery is key. I want everyone to be courageous and not be afraid of trying new things. There is no wrong in art. Everything you do is cool and wonderful. Just keep that in mind. And you might have a lot of patience because sometimes things don't work the first time. I've recently added two things to my decision tree, and they are no judgment and cooperation. One of the things I love is when people share ideas, work together on projects. I've seen a lot of families these days doing things all together. And no judgment means that please be kind when you talk to people about their projects. One reason that I always say everyone has artistic bones is because somewhere along the line, if you have been criticized for what you made, you're going to not want to try so much art again. Then we go to our trunk of our tree and we figure out what we're going to make, who we're going to make it for, and how we're going to make it happen. And then the leaves or the branches. Is your project going to hang or sit? What colors are your favorites? Is it going to be two-dimensional or three-dimensional? Sometimes people start with two-dimensional, something flat, and they paint on it or color it, and it becomes just a two-dimensional project. Sometimes people start with a two-dimensional project, and then they start adding things to it that have height and depth, and pretty soon they've got a three-dimensional project. And I will show you some examples in a minute. Then what materials do you like? Do you like things that are squishy? Do you like things that are prickly? And things like that. And is your project going to sit indoors or outdoors? That's going to make a difference in your choices of the kinds of glue that you use. And also, is there a special occasion being celebrated by someone in your household or your circle? You can always make things and show them to them by video chat and give them to them later. So, the basic tools that you're going to need if you're going to make something artistic are, of course, a pencil. You can sketch your design out first. Magic markers and pens of all kinds, all colors, stinky, non-stinky. Of course, you can have acrylic paints, watercolors, tempera, whatever you've got around. If someone in your house is done with an old pill case or it's half broken, you can use these cute little dishes for paint or for water in your art. You can even cut them up and make projects out of them. In terms of actual hardware kind of stuff, it's good to have a stapler. I've got my trusty little hammer, a hole punch, scissors, and a wire cutter. And that brings up the point that if you've got wire or something really heavy, and try to cut it with the scissors, you're going to wreck the scissors. So try to use the wire cutter. And a pliers is always useful. Also a screwdriver, because there's lots of things, if you're like me and who loves to take things apart, you might be disassembling something and you might need your hammer and your pliers and your screwdriver to get at some cool little piece of art that's hidden in there. In terms of how you're going to attach your stuff, there are many different ways to do it, depending again on whether it's going to be indoors or outdoors. There's cool duct tape around, just plain duct tape will do, masking tape, packing tape, regular Scotch tape, and many different kinds of glue. There's glitter glue, glue sticks, all kinds of things. And I might mention, if you have trouble, if you have hand problems or you're a little kid and you try to squeeze the glue out, if instead you want to put it in a little cup and then use your brush, then you can, let's pretend this is a cup, putting my glue in there, squeeze it in there, get my glue on my brush, be sure to wipe off the edges and to get the excess glue off, and then you can paint glue on your project. And if you have something that you want to really make sure it stays for a long time, if you take glue at the very end and paint it on the whole thing, in 24 hours you will have a clear plastic coating. Of course, it won't still last outside, but it will make your thing last longer. And then, of course, we have my favorite, the hot glue gun. So the way this works is it's a polymer stick. It comes in many different power levels, 40, 20 and 40, and maybe even 80. It's got a heater in here which melts the polymer into liquid. Squeeze the trigger, it comes out the end. And if I had patented this, I'd be a millionaire. I invented this little press. So let's say I'm going to glue something three-dimensional to something really hard. I plug it in, takes about 5 minutes to heat up, and it's super hot. It really can burn you. So put my glue in there. The heat might be conducted by the piece of material and you don't want to touch it because you will burn yourself. Take a little cork, or it can be a spool or a piece of wood or anything pretty solid and heavy, and press down on your object, count to 10, and your glue, the liquid will solidify back into a solid polymer. And in terms of other ways to attach things, there is, of course, wire, there's yarn and string, shoelaces. There's all kinds of different ways to attach things together. Even thread, you can double or quadruple thread and it will work. Okay, let's talk about the kinds of things that you might find around your environment. Let's start with outside. So outside, I have some really cool bark. And you can, the Native Americans used to make paper out of this. You can break it up. It's very textural and cool. Every little inch is different. You can paint on it. You can make sculptures out of it. I love to make things that are all with natural materials. A lot of the wild grasses now that have been growing, you can cut them off and they've got cool little feathery things on the top. There are a whole bunch of plants that have cool things. Rocks. This one happens to be really colorful and maybe has some fossils in it. And you can build with it. Seashells, if you went to the beach and you've got some cool shells, that would be really cool. This is a piece of a walkway stone that I had left over. You can paint on it. You can use it as a platform for a sculpture. Oh, my winter plants died. So, I mean, my summer plants died in the winter. So I took off my little hanger and it's got some cool clips which I could cut off and use for something else, or I could use this to make a mobile. It's very kinetic. I could even make some kind of doll. Who knows? Your imagination is limitless. I found some driftwood to make a walking stick. And that brings up a point about paints, because I have done a painting project with all natural dyes on wood using tea leaves and onion skin and walnuts and beet peels and carrots and all kinds of different colorful vegetables that you can use to dye with. Before I go any further, I want to show you some examples of things that people have made. This is a little three-dimensional doll made by a 6-year-old, but here's an example of how you can have a three-dimensional thing and still use your paints and so forth on it. So she decorated her outfit here with marker after she had put it on. It's got arms and feet out of paper clips, which is awesome. And the feet are, the platform is broken paint stirrers. So you could decorate those after your work is done. You could make little socks or something for her. My 5-year-old granddaughter made this when she was younger. She loved to cut, so she cut off all the corners and glued them on. And she also wanted to do something with wire, so she threaded wire in the bottom, and I gave her some lettering. If you guys have any lettering around, or you can make lettering and actually sign your material with a work of art in itself. This little doll was made by somebody with a clothespin and some other interesting materials. Seashell is the base of it. I have carried this little guy around for 2 years to farmers markets. It's very kinetic. It's made with about 20 different things. I challenge you to guess what they are. Has a lot of personality. I made a tiny little collage out of, it's actually on a 3-dimensional canvas, but the work itself is 2-dimensional. It's paper, some tape for spackling. It's got a part of a greeting card on it, part of a map, part of the inside of a chocolate kiss wrapper. Then a teenager who was a chaperone for an after-school program at my shop, she made this wonderful assemblage, which is an assembly of awesome materials, also 3-dimensional, on a shelf, a wooden shelf that I happen to have around. And it's got all kinds of cool, blingy, shiny things, which are my favorite. I love gold and silver stuff. So let's talk about technology that you might have around your house that you can use for art. If you're like me and you're using this time to archive digitally some of your old movies and stuff, you might find one of these around. Makes a vehicle steering wheel or a mobile or a platform. DVDs and CDs, all the ones you don't like anymore. They can be cut. The edges might be a little sharp, but you could tape them for safety. And they're, of course, very shiny and iridescent and cool. And I don't know if you younger people don't even know what this is anymore. It's a floppy disk. And the center has got a cool little disc in the middle that I'm going to try to get out. And a little metal piece, which I'm about to take off right now. Look at that. So there I have a little door or something for a tiny house, and it came with a spring. There's all kinds of different hardware. And speaking of hardware, that's another place to look in your garage or your basement or your shed or your workshop and find all kinds of funky things in there that you've been collecting for years because you thought you could use them, and now you can use those little bits and bobs to make art. This used to be a headphone. All the foam deteriorated on the earpieces, so now it can be attached together to be a mobile. It can be a headband. And I love these little, I think they're called jazz boards that are little tiny motherboards for computerized parts. Some are small, some are large, but they're really fun. They look like little cities with all their lights, and they're 3-dimensional in themselves, which is fun. Bottle caps. Everyone's got bottle caps. Everything just about comes with a bottle cap. So they also come in many colors and sizes and configurations. That's one of my favorites from the Izzy's. This is from a room deodorizer. Don't throw all of your markers out when they're dry. The caps make cool things. From your spices that you're done with. Mustard cap, you get 2 for the price of 1. If you've had a party at your house and you don't know what to do with all of those other leftover things because you're not going to use the same things next year, they've got cool designs. You can open them up. You've got a nice piece of cardboard to do stuff with, and the cups from parties. This one has 3 layers, which is awesome. Very pretty outside. Again, cardboard. And some of these things too, you can use the kinetic qualities to make stuff. Everybody's got this kind of stuff around. Rolls from tape, rolls from toilet paper, rolls from paper towels. My lemon juice went moldy because it was so old. So this is a really cool bottle that I managed to cut all the labeling off of. And it reminds me of a doll, but who knows? You could make it into a vase. Here's a belt that got too small. Nice buckle. It's got nice leather. The holes could be used separate for something. I love things with holes. Paper towel roll. This was from a large egg carton, probably from a commercial egg farmer, but it had these really cool holes in it. Here's my eye drop bottle. Could be anything. It looks like a body shape. And everybody's getting takeout these days, so you're going to have tons and tons of takeout containers. If the bottom is icky from what was in it and the top is still good, cut it off. You've got a nice treasure box or who knows what. And also you have to think about ways to store all the things that you're collecting. Here's a vegetable fruit thing, which I love the texture of. It's got dots on the bottom and it's all bumpy on the inside, and again has windows, which I find really helpful and useful. Pie plate can be so many things. You can make a musical instrument. You can make a hat. You can make a mask. Of course, not the kind of mask you're going to wear out to the store, but a play mask. And then there's this nice texture on the outside. You could cut it with some tin snips or something. And packing material. All of us are getting things delivered from Amazon and who knows where. So it's coming with all this kind of cool stuff. I love this paper, recycled paper. These little corn and glue marshmallow-y things. Don't eat them, kids. They've got some kind of fixative in there, but they look really delicious. Many different kinds of styrofoam that are not recyclable, but you can use them for art. This one happens to be easy to break, but very crumbly. Not everyone's favorite. This is an edge of a 4-edge thing that came in the FedEx. This kind of foam is easier to deal with. You can cut it with a knife. You can make really distinct shapes with it. It's not as messy. It actually has 3 layers that are kind of laminated together. Very sturdy. I love this stuff. This stuff reminds me of licorice. All kinds of different colors of foam. And of course, bubble wrap. This is from a bubble envelope. If you get bored, you can just sit around and pop it. These kinds are fun to make all kinds of things with. You could make a like a window that looks like one of those glass brick windows out of this. I love it when things come packaged in colored bubble wrap, the best. All kinds of big things like lumber and electronics and stuff comes wrapped in this nice plastic roping, which is nicely textured with a little Harlequin grid. It's very kinetic. It can be used to support things because it's so sturdy. You can bend it and make it into all kinds of stuff. For the backings of your art, you can use Kleenex boxes, which also have really cool designs on the back. All you folks who are working at home, you've got millions of file folders, or like me, if you're trying to get rid of 2015-16 tax stuff. These make nice, sturdy backings for things. You can cut them up and make shapes out of them and paint them and glue them on. This is a paper towel box, which has a cool design on it. Here's a nice piece of cardboard from something or other to paint on, to use as a platform, to use it to cut up to make supports. If your pizza comes with a nice circular piece of cardboard and it isn't dirty on both sides, use that. Circles are really fun to make things out And I cannot forget paper. Paper, there's so many kinds of paper things that you can make things out of. Coffee filters come in different shapes. I'm actually making masks out of coffee filters. This is a nice picture that was on a postcard, an antique postcard that I'm going to cut up and make stuff out of. All the wrapping paper that you've got that you don't know what you're going to do with, but it's too pretty to throw away. Greeting cards. That's why I started to say that. So all the greeting cards that you got that have a cool picture on the front and you don't really want to save the message, this one happens to be blank, you can cut them up and make things with them. Playing cards are really cool. They've got numbers and shapes, and most of them have a much better design on the back than this one. All right, here's some miscellaneous things that I found around that you can use to make art of. Some of them I call my bigs or blanks because they're big enough that you can actually make a whole thing inside or around it. This one happens to be a glasses case. I'm donating the glasses to the Lions Club, and the case is just too cool for school. So, and it came with this really nice little velveteen insert, which I am also going to cut up and make things out of. But you could make a diorama out of that, a treasure box, who knows what. This is another window material. It's from pens. If your kiddo is too big for this stuff now, you've got all these pieces from a mat that you used to put on the floor when you had a toddler. You can cut these up. These again are nicely textured. You can even use them to paint on and make a print. I love making prints out of different things. Here's something else you could use to print with. In the apartment that I have, I found a glove, rubber glove, stuck to the bottom cabinet because some chemical had been used on it. And it's really a nice texture. It has two sides, and again, you could paint it and make a print. All this ribbon from presents that you got that is like, whoa, I've got to save that. It's really cool. Now it can be art. This is the top of an oatmeal container. I cut the advertising paper out from it, and you've got a nice little ring, which can be anything. A toy for your cat. A lot of times people like to make toys for their pets. Here's a curtain ring from that old curtain that you hated. It's in your garage waiting for the next yard sale, which hopefully we can have by the summer. Here's a piece of a photo book. And another window material, any acrylic clear thing that you got makes nice windows for houses. Oh, this is from a rug that someone was hooking and gave me the parts. This is the nice little textured, again, a good thing for printing with, or you could make a design within that. And this is the carpet bits that I took off of it. And they can be used for hair for something, or just to add a nice textural element to something. I don't collect pennies anymore, but maybe you do. I put them in a dish, and when the dish is full, we roll them up and take them to the bank. But pennies are really pretty, and you could glue them to art. I once made a hat covered with pennies. Here's a handle from my razor, which is too expensive to replace the razor things, but I love the handle, so it's going to be art. I don't hang my clothes out anymore because I've got too many birds and they'd be full of bird poop. So clothespins, got lots of them. It can be a doll. It can be something just to hold something together that you're making. My husband's iPod died, and it has this lovely textured suede faux fabric, which I'm cutting up to make into a piece of collage. And he donated his Fitbit, old Fitbit band to me, which has cool bits on it. You know, being an artist is really, all it takes is learning how to see. I happen to have a learned skill, actually, probably, of being able to see art in almost everything. It makes me a good photographer, but it also makes me a good collector of funky stuff like what you're seeing here. Again, from all your takeout, you might be getting some big bags with items in them made with this cool ropey stuff, which is just paper really with maybe some glue on it. But it comes in many different colors. It can be used for all kinds of things. My husband's hearing aid batteries came in this awesome little thing. Again, lots of design elements on it. I love little bottles. And this is from that air freshener that I showed you, the cap. You can fill it with cool stuff and make a colorful little vase. Cotton balls. Most people have some kind of cotton ball around their house that's really useful. You can use cotton balls and old batting from old pillows that you hate to stuff all kinds of things. For example, I've got my trusty little Sherry Lewis sock puppet here. And I'm going to say hello to all you guys and show you my little hat and the fact that I can be made into all kinds of things. I can be made into a finger puppet or a hand puppet, or I can be stuffed and made into a doll or a pet toy. And you can decorate me with all kinds of things. One of the things that my owner found, besides this nifty little suede hat, which used to be a Jewish yarmulke, is some Easter grass. And that made hair that actually just happens to match my colorful face and my body. So, I found a baby fork, which was broken, so I'm not going to let any babies use it anymore. But it could make a doll, it could make something cool to hang from a mobile. Again, all you people who are working at home or have folks working at home, you've got so many office supplies. You've got clips of all kinds. And speaking of clips, I don't know if anybody noticed my nifty earrings, but they're made from colored paper clips. And I have to give Stella McCartney a shout out for that because she's making them for thousands of dollars and I'm making them just for fun. And to show you, of course, fabric. All kinds of things. You've got probably rags that you could cut up and make things out of and glue them on stuff or make them into clothes for some kind of puppet or doll that you're making. Oh, buttons. Can't forget buttons. Buttons are everywhere. You probably got some stashed away from that shirt that you were saving, the extra button that came with it, all kinds of colors and textures and shapes. And again, here's a place where you find lots of history. If your parental figure has some jewelry that they're willing to spare, that also makes really cool stuff. All those single earrings or the pendant that you no longer have the chain for, bling, bling, bling. I love cutting up old shoes. The straps and the leather make really good parts. And if you've got puzzles that you know are missing pieces and are just going to be frustrating, the pieces are really pretty and cool, and you can put some together. You can put them together wrong and make a structure that you glue in weird ways. Very nice collage bit. So I think I'm about done with my talk. I just want to give one more statement. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can floof today. And here are some examples of things that you can make on your own. I hope everyone can see this. Maybe you can do a stop on the video and read it. So basically, your imagination is key, your bravery is important. Be well, stay safe, and hope to see you on the flip side. And now, as I remind you that everyone has artistic bones, me and my miscellaneous madness bucket are going to exit stage left.